Are you finding that you and your spouse used to love one another, spend time with each other, talk all the time, you were close, especially during those times when we were dating and he was oh so fine? Or you're finding that over the years you kind of just drifted apart? Maybe you're not fighting, maybe you're not arguing, but there's kids around, there's shopping, there's work, there's church, there's everything else. So you're like two ships passing in the night. Or are you finding, I'm going to ask the real question, do you feel sometimes that I love him or I love her, but I'm just not in love with him? My friend, if you're having these kind of things, these kind of thoughts in your mind, or even thoughts like, I don't even know what's going on in our relationship, I don't really know what's happened, we're just not the same anymore, then you're in the right place, because today we are going to be talking about connection killers. You heard it right. Connection killers. That is what I call it. That is what I name them, because they do exactly that. They kill the connection in your relationship. And when I mean kill, I mean kill like Jason kill. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, because a lot of times couples fall into these traps and they end up staying in these traps. These things happen every now and then, but they shouldn't characterize your marriage, or they shouldn't characterize your relationship. But the good thing is, on top of that, we are going to be talking about things that you can do today to begin to reconnect with your spouse. Hi, I'm Rhonda Brown, registered nurse, counselor, marriage and family therapist, and relationship coach. Welcome to the Art of Connection Therapy channel, where we talk about, you got it, connection. Connection to who? Connection to what? Connection to God, connection to ourselves, and connection to one another. And that way we can begin to move toward the kind of relationships that we were created to have. So we're going to be talking about my top 7 connection killers. In the 7 connection killers, I'm going to be rating them from 7 all the way down to 1, to talk about the different things that couples fall into that may cause them to become disconnected and, hear this, stay disconnected. We all become disconnected from time to time in relationships, especially if you're talking about a relationship throughout the course of a lifetime. These things will happen. So we're not trying to act like we're trying to prevent any of this from happening at any point of your lives. However, you certainly, no one absolutely gets into a marriage or gets into a long-term relationship thinking that they're going to spend the rest of their years emotionally alone in that relationship. That is torture. I'm going to call it what it is. So today, again, I'm going to be listing my top 7 connection killers that I've seen in couples that cause them to stay disconnected. Connection killer number 7: lack of boundaries around your relationship. We see it on movies. We hear it all the time, where we have those negative voices constantly in our ears. The girlfriends, the guy friends, the movies, the co-workers, the family members, all constantly pouring negativity into us about either our spouses or marriage overall, relationships overall. Now, while we can't eliminate some of these things, because some of them were born into our families, we didn't select them, but we can be selective about who we allow to constantly speak into our ears. So what we want to do, friends, is to have godly people to be able to help us to make right decisions. You don't want to have your relationship where you're completely in isolation, because then if you're in an unhealthy relationship, then you may not be able to see it as you're in the relationship. So you do need people who love you. You do need people who are objective. You do need people who are wise to be able to help you and to hold you accountable. So you don't want to eliminate all the voices, but you do want to eliminate the voices that will rob you of having the kind of relationship that you want with your spouse, because they are constantly speaking negative things into your mind and causing you to see your spouse in a certain way, causing you not to value them in a certain way, or not to value marriage in a certain way. So you want to be sure that you surround yourself with godly counsel. Another thing I always suggest to couples also is to have a marriage mentor. So you have a couple that may be a little bit more seasoned, a little bit wiser, a little bit spends a little bit more time walking with the Lord and walking with each other, and they're able to mentor you as a couple. So that way you have people that you are accountable to. You have people that can be objective. You have people who can speak the truth in love. You have people who can advocate for your marriage. You will need that, because you're talking about marriage, you're talking about relationships that are going to be lasting decades. So you certainly want to have that in your life. The Bible in Proverbs 11:14 says, and this is the New King James Version, it says, where there is no counsel, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. So again, you want to surround not only yourself, but also your marriage relationship, so both people, with godly counsel to be able to help you make godly decisions, sound decisions, and to be able to hold you accountable. Connection killer number 6. What about the friendship in your relationship? What about having fun together? Those are things when you see new couples or young love, you see them having fun together. But now over the years, you may see couples where they're kind of living like roommates. Or you see that there's just a slow drift. Or you see that they have completely separate interests in all areas. No overlap. You, my friends, you don't want to fall into that. If you find that you're falling into that, some of the things that you can do, we probably hear it all the time on internet and everything else, is start to have date nights together. Start to carve out that time for fun together. So that way you're having those shared experiences together. You can have game nights where you're doing maybe connection cards, or you're doing some type of game or something to help build that intimacy, to help build that time while having fun with your spouse. Also finding some common interests together. You don't have to have all common interests. We're all uniquely made by God. But you want to have some, and you want to be doing some of those together. Finding what do you like? What do I like? What is it that we can do together? Or I'm not really into this, but I'll try this. Early on in our relationships, we tend to do a lot of those things, but after a while they go away. So doing those things may be helpful. Also, trying new things together. Maybe doing a cooking class together, a dancing class together, something where you're actually learning something together that you can continue to do. And then the last thing I also recommend is maybe doing some type of teaching or something together as a couple, maybe mentoring another couple, maybe doing a marriage workshop, maybe at church or out in the community. Something where you're working toward a common goal together may help you to find again some of those common interests that sometimes in the beginning we did, but then over time we no longer do, or maybe some of the interests change, but then you can find yourselves again and come back together again and do those. Connection killer number 5, the blank centered home. You fill in the blank. We hear the kid-centered home. You can see the church-centered home, the whatever-centered home. Your home, you want it to be centered on the Lord. You want it to be centered on your marriage, on each other as well, and not so focused on the children, or on everything else. So when you're able to kind of put the marriage first friends, that helps you to prioritize your marriage. Not make your marriage a god, but it does prioritize your marriage. And it sends the message to others that your marriage is important to you. You are sending that message. Your spouse is sending that message. So in essence, that is saying our marriage is important to us. Have children in the house, it sends them the message. Our marriage is important to us. So those are some of the things that you want to do to eradicate the blank-centered home, whether it's kid-centered, whether it's church-centered. Those things have their places and they're certainly important. However, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing your marriage. That's a common trap that couples fall into. Connection killer number 4. The busyness, the distraction, the iPhone, the computers, this, that, and the other. Those things, while they're good, they help us with life. All of these things are good. By themselves, they are not bad. However, they can easily become distractions, robbing us of the opportunity to take advantage of the time that we have to spend with our spouses. Certainly want to make time to do your own things, but you don't want to do it instead or in place of your marriage. That can also happen not just with the iPhones and all the electronics and the worlds of distractions that we're in, but also with jobs, with ministries at church. Again, we've kind of talked about this with connection killer number 5 is prioritizing the relationship. That is the medicine that the relationship needs, is prioritizing the relationship. Prioritizing the relationship. If you can hear me, that can mean quality time. Again, we talked about date nights, but date night's not necessarily a movie, but time where you're spending with one another, actually tuning into one another. Annual vacations, daily check-ins or FaceTime with each other, even if it's for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, just so you can check in with each other, decompress, or maybe after you decompress alone. However you do it, there is no prescription as to how you need to do it, but that you need to do it, and you do it in a way that works for the two of you. So you certainly want to stay away from connection killer number 4, which is the busyness and the distraction. Now we're down to the bottom 3, or maybe we should say the top 3 in this case of connection killers, things that kill the connection in intimate relationships. Number 3, not responding to bids. What am I talking about? Bids? What is that? What not responding to when your spouse is actually reaching for you, either emotionally or physically, or however they're trying to reach you. Not responding to that is a connection killer. Like what? Like maybe sex. Not responding to your spouse's need for sex, not responding to your spouse's need for romance, not responding to your spouse's need for just help around the house or help with the kids or help with whatever is going on. Those things can kill connections in relationships because it usually sends a message to either one or the other that the other person doesn't care, that they don't matter, which can wreak havoc in the connection and the foundation of your relationship. So the medicine, what do you need to do to help for that? Well, what you want to do is to be able to tune in and respond to your spouse. Tune in and respond to your spouse. That lets them know I'm heard, I'm cared for, I'm loved. Now, in some couples and in some relationships, it's very difficult for either one or both spouses to tune in and respond to the other spouse. Maybe there have been hurts or injuries or different things that have occurred in the relationship or even before the relationship that make it difficult for either one or two people to respond. If that is the case, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to figure it out alone. There is help. God doesn't leave us out here unequipped. He doesn't leave us out here to kind of flail around by ourselves. There is help. You can seek counsel, professional counseling. You can seek coaching. You can seek help from your pastor. Again, a marriage mentor. You can seek help from others to be able to help you as to what is blocking you from responding to your spouse. That's not something that you want to ignore, because that is truly you got it, connection killer. Connection killer number 2. Unresolved pain, unresolved hurt, unresolved conflict. That can kill a connection and a relationship faster than a New York minute. That can kill connection in a relationship. So if you find that there is a lot of unresolved pain, again, either that may have happened in the course of your relationship or something that predated your relationship, then that is time that you want to seek professional help. Again, the Lord has not left us out here to not have what we need to be able to thrive and to be able to succeed. Seek professional help. Seek spiritual help from a pastor. Fast, pray with your spouse or even alone. The Lord will respond to you. But there is help out there if you're dealing with unresolved hurt, unresolved pain, unresolved conflict. Sometimes I see couples that have gone through affairs that happened years before they're even in the counseling office with me. And the pain has been unresolved. Things have been unspoken. They haven't been shared. Things have not been acknowledged. And the person or people are trying to move on and they're unable to do it. It makes it very difficult for us to really thrive, to really be happy, to really be connected the way that God created and intended us to be with ourselves and with one another when there is pain, constant pain, that has not been healed or even addressed. And last but not least, my friends, if you stayed with this video up until the end, the number 1 connection killer that I have seen as I've counseled multiple people, numerous couples, is the disconnection from yourself. Yes, I said it, disconnection from yourself. How do I know if I'm disconnected from myself? Well, if you tend to feel numb or feel nothing when something happens in your relationship or something happens outside of your relationship and you feel nothing, that may be a sign that you've emotionally numbed out, because maybe there's a lot of pain that hasn't been acknowledged or processed, that's still kind of trapped in, that hasn't been dealt with, that hasn't been healed. And so you're constantly in protective mode by numbing yourself so that you don't feel the hurt. You don't feel the sadness. You don't feel the pain. But what happens, my friends, is when you remain disconnected from yourself, it's very difficult then to connect with others. So therefore, you're typically people who are disconnected from themselves live a false sense of self, not on purpose, not purposely, not intentionally, but because they're not yet understanding or acknowledging what is actually going on within themselves. Another way that may manifest itself is when someone's disconnected from themselves is that they're angry all the time. They don't even know why they're angry. They're flying off the handle. Again, they may be disconnected. Anger may be their go-to. Maybe their coping mechanism to deal with whatever is going on the inside. Maybe they're not in touch with that, or they're not ready to face it. But my friends, that's not the way that God created us to live. Remember, He's made us relational people. We were born for connection, amongst other things. We were born to worship the Lord. We were born to thrive. We are also born for connection. And so if you find that you are experiencing that, or your spouse is experiencing that, then that may be an indicator that you may want to seek some professional help. A lot of times there's still a little bit of a stigma with counseling and seeking professional help when we're going through things. However, what tends to happen when we don't get the help for things that we need is that our coping mechanisms become prison cells. You heard me. Our coping mechanisms then can become prison cells for us, keeping us locked up, locked down, locked in, and keeping us from having the kind of relationships and the kind of life that God created for us to have. So seek professional help if you find that you're either numb or you're not sure what's going on, that you're disconnected from yourself. Seek again help from pastors, because God has equipped several people, just like he equips doctors, he equips business people, he equips artists, he equips all types of people so that we can get what we need, so that we don't have to constantly live in defeat. And last but not least, I would say prayer. Prayer can do wonderful things. It's not always a magic bullet, but it is something, and God hears our prayers and he will respond, and he can lead us to where we need and what we need to be able to have the kind of life that he wants us to have and to fulfill our purpose here on this earth. My friends, these were again what I call the 7 connection killers. Tell me in the comments section what you think. Is there something that should have been on the list that wasn't on the list? Would your list, the numbers be different? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you found that this content was helpful, you can do 3 things. You can like and subscribe. You can hit the notification bell to know when I post new videos providing content on connection, relationship, and things of that nature. And you can also check out my website at www.theartofconnectiontherapy.com. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. And always remember, connection is an art worth mastering, because we were born for connection. Take care.